Good morning. Good morning. Come on in. It's almost time for the Saturday morning sales meeting. We're going to get started in just a second. I want to get some people invited in here really quick. Let's see. There it is. Let's get this going. So there. Oops. Get this out to a few key places. Almost got it. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hi, I am Brad Smith, and it is time for the Saturday morning sales meeting. I'm Brad Smith, the original Car Smith. It is December the 28th, 2019. It is Saturday morning, and we're going to have a great morning talking about the game plan for your automotive dealership for 2019 or for 2020. So last week we started talking about the overall view for your game plan. Do you have that set game plan, or are you drawing in the dirt? So now we're going to try and take some of that and break it down a little bit farther. What do you really need to be able to catapult ahead? So we took a look at facilities, we took a look at real estate, we started talking about different departments and what they needed to be doing. I want to help take you from where we were in the 20 teens into 2020. And in doing that, we need to start taking a look at a lot of different things. So some of that was in productivity. And I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. I also want to talk about productivity in your service department. I want to talk about your BDC and what we need to be able to do to get more productive leads into your internet department, into your BDC, so you can create more floor traffic that is going to do something and be able to convert it well. So first thing I want to talk about really quick is I want to review your service department. Now, many cases we've got service departments that have got capacity. We can grow, we can expand, we can add lifts, right? We can add more technicians. Hopefully you have got an apprentice program where you're bringing novice technicians in and you're helping to train them. You're helping to build them up and refine them into productive technicians to go down the road. But I also want to talk about what it is that we can do when we're just stretched, when we're at capacity, when we can't get another person in, we don't have any more stalls to be able to do. And that's increasing productivity. So there's a few things that we can do. Some things we can do to increase productivity is working with our technicians. Talk to your technicians, ask them what they really need. Here's a few key things that can highly increase your productivity for your technicians. Sometimes it's lighting. Sometimes by just increasing the lighting, by lowering lights, getting better lighting, and making absolutely one of the best well-lit areas is in your service department so technicians can easily see what they're doing under the hood of a car. You can increase their productivity because they can see what they're doing even better. Now, sometimes it's placing lights between stalls. Sometimes it's having those lights that you can project in underneath of a hood. Any of that can help. Now, another thing you can do, some of the more modern dealerships today are being built with air conditioning in the service department. That can be a very expensive proposition, but another thing you can do is bring in what is frequently referred to as swamp filters. They're those great big huge fans that you hook up to a hose, right? The hose goes down over a sponge or a filter, and it's blowing cool mist out across your service department. I have found that simply adding those in service departments that may not have great air travel between can significantly increase your productivity because it will decrease the temperature as much as 10 degrees or so. By making the the technicians more comfortable when it's hot outside, you will increase your productivity. Now, if you're expanding at some point, if you're going to build on something else, I highly recommend it is in radiant heat down into the floor. Now, many times we can do that through boilers and piping underneath of your floor. Sometimes it's wiring. Talk to your architects, see what it is that you can do. If those floors are more comfortable for the technicians going underneath cars that are down on top of them, if that floor is warmer and more conducive in the winter time in colder weather areas, you will make your technicians more productive as well. Here is another thing that I find frequently is used or can be used, is providing direct lines from the technician stalls into your parts department. Let's face it, when your technicians need parts, they decide what parts they need, they head to the parts department, right? But here's what happens. They're going to stop and talk to their buddies along the way between their stall and the parts department. The other thing they're going to do is they're finally going to get down there, and then what they're going to find is the parts department needs to know, does it have this code? Does it have this option? Does it have this? And they didn't know because they didn't know they needed the information. So now they've got to go back to the stall again. They've got to go back and look it up, right? They've got to go back and find ways to be able to collect the information. And again, they're talking to their friends all along the way, all the way back. They get the information and somebody else is going to stop them. They're going to, a lot of time is wasted going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. You can increase your production simply by putting telephones or intercoms, or maybe making sure your phones are connected, cell phones, directly to your parts department so they can get the help that they need. By putting in those direct lines, now they're at their stalls, they're asking for the parts. Do you have this on the car? I'm still at the car, I can get it, and now I can run down and get my parts when they're ready for me. Otherwise, that technician stays in the stall. The other thing you can do between the service advisors and the parts department, right? Make sure your service writers are writing down on the face of the RO, writing down the time that it needs to be complete, the work needs to be completed by, right? And then based on that, occasionally take all of your open repair orders, take it down to your lead technician and put it in a rack based upon when that work needs to be started by in order to be able to be completed on time. Now, here's the next thing that can happen is at some point, if that service writer is needing to know where he's at during the day, he can easily walk by, he can look at the rack and see, is my team ahead of schedule or are they running behind? Do I have the ability to sell more work or do I need to back off, right? So that's a quick visual cue as well as to where you are. So those kinds of communications can take place because people are not always where they need to be when you have questions, right? Make sure that between your lead technician and your service writer that there is a good connection back and forth so you don't have to be moving back and forth to get those questions answered. You will increase your productivity by just those few small things. Here's the next thing. Say in your sales department, in your internet department, start using video. The number one search for place on the internet for automobiles is in Google. But number two, believe it or not, is in YouTube. If you are not recording video and posting it online where it's free, make sure you're putting in your dealership name, putting in the year, make, model, trim. If you're doing walkarounds, post those up on the internet. Make sure that your contact information is in there, post it online. It will increase your traffic. It will increase your leads. It will increase your phone calls. You will start bringing in people from farther around. Start using YouTube and video. Here's the next part. Sales staff needs to start posting video online. So a lot of times Dealers are concerned that their salespeople are going to waste time in social media. Wrong, wrong, wrong. If you are not actively in social media, if you're not posting video in social media, you will start losing customers to your competition. Now, sometimes I don't want to build up the big brand around my salespeople, because then what happens if they go somewhere else? Okay, what happens if they go somewhere else and start doing it there? You are going to be left behind. Start allowing your customers to build up the reputation where they are, and they will have even more difficulty leaving you. Encourage the use of video by everybody in the store. Sometimes it's simply a quick little video message on a lead. You've created an appointment, you set an appointment, send a quick video message. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, just wanted to send you a quick little video. Wanted you to be able to put a face with the name. So when you come in and ask for me this afternoon at 2 o'clock, you know this is the face you want to look for. Make sure you're asking for Brad Smith when you arrive. I'll be ready, and I'll have the car set for you as well. Those kinds of video messages, those extra steps, will go a long way in bringing your customer in. Sometimes that quick little video walk around, sometimes a quick little shot of the car before they come in. That's one more thing that can sync up and make your customer loyal and want to do business with you. The more we start taking those extra steps, the more we will bring in customers that will do business with you in the long run. Now, we started talking about how to build traffic. You need to use video. One, on your own website, you need to make sure that you're getting the proper tools. 90% of customers tell you they want more digital tools on your internet websites. 90%. You cannot argue with that number. Now, the fear is, in some cases, is customers are going to be doing this online. What do they even need my staff for? Because 90% of that 90% still want the in-dealership experience. They still want to come in, they still want to touch the car, they want to drive the car, they want to compare several different models. They don't have their minds made up yet. So but what they're telling us is, I want to take all those parts, all that back and forth negotiation, I want to make it as simple as possible. I want to have it done before I arrive. So make sure you have a trade-in tool so people can evaluate their trades on your website before they walk in the store. Over 70% will have already done that. Why not make sure they're doing it with you? Are you using the same tool to appraise a vehicle in store as you are online? Because if your online and offline experience is difficult or is not connected, or you're getting two different numbers, you're not syncing it up, your experience will not be the same. You have a strong chance of losing a client. You need to be able to make sure that when you walk through the process, here's something the customer will absolutely knows in their mind, but they will not admit out loud to you. Even if they've already done the appraisal, right? They didn't really know what they were doing, because they don't do it as often as you do, and they certainly aren't going to recondition it the way you are. But if you walk them through that process so they understand where the numbers come from, those numbers will agree with exactly on the same tool they use to evaluate, the trust will build between you and the client, and it will make for a higher close rate. It will make for a better transactable price for you to be able to do business with. Is the customer able to get a payment from you? It is something that is going to blow up in this next year, in the next coming years. And if you aren't on the front edge, you are going to start losing customers. Is there a workable chat, sometimes with AI features in there, that works well with your customers? If the chat you're using does not work well, don't be afraid to dump it, and dump it fast. Do not get locked into a long-term contract. If somebody's trying to lock you into a long-term contract, it's because they don't have the confidence in their own tool, and they want to make sure you're not going to leave. Don't do business with those vendors. Do business with vendors who are absolutely willing to let you out on a quick basis if this isn't the right tool for you. right? So here's a nice thing, is if we start building up traffic, if we start creating demand by working with the right vendors, if we start, and we'll talk about vendors more next week, you will turn your used car inventory faster. Make sure you're taking advantage of every tool possible to increase the visibility of your used car inventory. The faster you turn your used car inventory, the higher your demand is going to be. You will need a used car purchasing strategy in 2020. If you don't have it already, start planning. Some of it needs to be auctioned, but you, my dealer friends, you know already the best used car is the one that is sitting in your customer's garage right now. You need to be able to attract that customer in, to bring that vehicle in, to do business with you. We're going to talk about that along with vendors more next week as we move into 2020. You need to start planning and preparing. Here's the nice part. The more active you get in buying used cars, the faster you're going to turn. But it will fail. It will absolutely fail if you don't start putting automotive purchase over the curb from your clientele in your in your salesperson's compensation plan. Start compensating them for buying cars as well. You're going to pay that fee if you go to the auction. Why wouldn't you pay it to your own personnel? They will be more active with those leads if you do business, if you compensate them for it. We're going to continue this next week as we start talking about vendors and that used car strategy next week for the Saturday morning sales meeting with Brad Smith, your original car smith. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next Saturday. See you. Bye now.